Welcome to The Other Side, Mississippi Today's political podcast. I'm Jeff Pender, joined here today with the entire A team, probably a combined 100 years of political experience, and that's just Bobby Harrison. So anyway, joined here today with Bobby Harrison, our ideas editor, joined by Catherine Lynn on the politics team, focuses on business and development. Michael Goldberg wears many hats, as does Taylor Vance. Guys, thank you for joining us, and Happy New Year, and Happy New Year to everyone listening.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Hey, Jeff, if I have 100, you got at least 3/4 of that.
Well,
I was going to say, I don't know how you're calculating the 100 years, but I think it's pretty heavily tilted in y'all's favor. Y'all make up about 80% of that. And
Bobby and I, between us, scare the heck out of 100 years. Anyway, everyone knows a Happy New Year also means a happy new session. Legislative session right around the corner, and we thought today we would give a quick primer of what we're hearing or suspecting maybe coming down the pike. Taylor, I'll start with you. It's been no secret since the gavel fell on last year's session what one of the key topics is going to be this year. House Speaker Jason White has made no secret of that. So what is that big issue going to be?
Yeah, it should be no surprise to anyone that school choice will dominate the legislative session, or education freedom, as the House leadership likes to call it. You know, we have not yet seen a bill. We haven't seen a draft of a bill. We don't know exactly what all it will include, but some House members and House leadership have dropped some hints of what it may include. The Speaker at one point said that it's going to be more of an omnibus bill and include some type of public to public. It may include PERS. It may include teacher pay, but I kind of in recent weeks, he's kind of backtracked from that and kind of said on social media recently that school choice has never been tied to teacher pay and that it will not. So we don't really know if it will be omnibus or not, but I think it's safe to assume that school choice will, whatever package or bill, there will be some bill blessed by House leadership to include public to public, meaning that regardless of where someone lives, that if, that on paper they can have the ability to attend whatever public school they want, likely with the caveat that the receiving school will accept them. Yeah. Or that the receiving school will have some type of criteria for accepting them. There will be some nuances to that. I would imagine it'll be very similar to the bill that the House passed last year.
Yeah, well, school choice can mean a lot of things, correct? I mean, and the big thing that gets the pot stirred is public money to private schools, vouchers, however that's done.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. I know you've talked with a lot of lawmakers, a lot of Republican lawmakers in the leadership and in the rank and file about this issue. There have been questions from the start, and even the Speaker at times in the past has raised the question of whether a full-on voucher for private schools using public tax dollars, whether that can pass even in the House with the Republican supermajority.
Yeah, whether it could even pass the House GOP caucus.
Right.
Whether public to private public money for private schools can pass. And I would bet the answer to that is probably still no. And the Speaker has been pretty honest about that, although we don't know if that has shifted any. Typically, areas that have very strong public schools, like I would say the Tupelo area, DeSoto County area, Oxford, Lafayette County area, some areas on the coast, Rankin Madison County, they don't really want that. I mean, their school leadership has been very kind of forthcoming in saying they don't want that. They don't want that. A lot of the Delta, I don't think, doesn't want it. I mean, most of your Democrats are going to be opposed to it. So then you're kind of left with the question, if pockets of the coast don't want it, if pockets of DeSoto County doesn't want it, if pockets of Northeast Mississippi don't want it, if your suburbs in the metro area don't want it, well, who's left? I mean, what legislators do you have to support it? And I mean, it's kind of slim pickings. And so I think that will be a tough sell. But I mean, Speaker has kind of, he's promised to continue to kind of push that issue and educate people and kind of improve his no, I shouldn't say improve, but continue to communicate his position and move the needle on that. Yeah. But yeah, I think public funds for private schools, and I think they would take issue with that description, but public funds for private schools is still a tough sell in the House as a whole, I think.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what can move forward.
And even a relatively modest version of that, just to recap last session, when the issue came up in the House Education Committee, there was some question. Democrats requested a roll call vote. The chairman proceeded. So clearly there's been a hesitancy from some members in the past of going on the record with where they stand on this issue. So it'll be interesting to see as this bill moves through the process, whether that the speaker has managed to flip any hesitant members from last session.
Yeah, Michael, I seem to recall there was one House member, I believe Vince Mangold. We asked him how he would have voted if it would have come up for a full roll call vote. I believe he's from the Brookhaven area. He just said he would keep it to himself how he would have voted. And then you have Representative Dana McLean from Columbus. Both of those people on House Education Committee. She just got up and walked out of the committee meeting when that bill came up for a vote. And we asked her how she would have voted, and she also declined to comment. This will only be my fifth session to cover, I think. But I don't really recall if a bill's that popular, I don't think I've ever seen just House members outright just decline to comment on how they feel or how they would vote on a piece of legislation. So
I think it's fair to say that at least last session, we'll see if anything changes, but there has been up to this point a chasm between the extent to which the leadership in the House has prioritized school choice and some rank and file members. So.
Yeah. But I mean, I think we should, Jeff, kind of as you sort of prefaced, I guess, but props to the House leadership. They will have held hearings and have made no bones about it. They have not really hit the ball or have a hidden agenda. They have said this is, Speaker said this is what his priority is, and he has gone forward with it.
Yeah. That's been his MO. He gives everything a full hearing in the open daylight usually. Mm-hmm. Taylor, you mentioned your fifth session. We should point out we have Katie with us, Katie Lynn. Katie, this will be your first session. You are in for a treat.
Yeah. Any tips from the more veteran members?
I don't know if we have any tips. There may be no magic tips. It's like drinking from a fire hose sometime.
I remember, Jeff, I think I've shared this with y'all. I asked Hob Bryan, who is the longest serving state senator currently. I remember when I first got the Capitol correspondent job from the Daily Journal, I asked him for advice, and he said, "Oh, well, it's easy. You just show up and write about what happens here."
Yeah.
But sometimes that's a lot easier said than done.
Right. Katie, you've been covering a lot of stuff prior to this session. A lot of economic development and business issues going on. A lot of stuff with agriculture. What are you hearing? What are some issues you think that will come up along those lines?
Well, the big thing has been workforce development, which is not just a Mississippi thing. That's also something we're seeing nationally, and it is tied to the data centers. There's been a lot of talk about the need for electricians, and people have been talking about not just workforce development at the college level, but really looking at it from the high school and like K through 12. Yeah. So we may see some things for that. Whether we'll see a major economic impact act is TBD. It doesn't. It's so far I haven't heard anything about it. You guys are more familiar with how that works than me.
Well, as you, I think you pointed out in some recent stories, to date, the legislature passed some legislation and some funding, I guess, within the last couple of years that, as far as bringing in more data centers, which they're going up all over the South, so far they haven't had to call the legislature in. Seems like they set up the framework, and as opposed to huge state incentives, they're mainly data centers cutting deals with the power companies. That appears to be more their focus.
Yeah, they also passed the Mississippi flex incentives, which makes it much MFlex, which makes it much simpler for the Mississippi Development Authority to streamline the process for getting these companies incentives, and they have additional incentives for data centers. We've seen, I think there are 4 projects now in the state of Mississippi that are going on, which then that doesn't include XAI's power plant up in DeSoto.
Well, you've also reported a lot about the predicament, whatever you want to call it, Mississippi farmers are in. I don't know. Is there anything on the state level that could be done, or is that primarily going to be Washington and what goes on with tariffs and those types of?
Yeah, it's a global market. So what happens in China is going to affect what happens for Mississippi farmers. But there has been some talk about what the state can do, including making the trade routes along the river more accessible and potentially bringing in a soybean processing plant. That's also was raised earlier this year.
Yeah. Some, I guess, some domestic uses or sales that could correspond with that. Michael, sorry, we're jumping around a little bit, but a lot of topics to cover with the session coming down. One thing you've written extensively about, done some really, really good reporting, are issues with prison health care or the lack thereof. Some pretty harrowing stories of people incarcerated and their families having to deal with this. Sounds like, and you've actually got some new reports out. It sounds like the legislature may tackle this issue, or at least it's going to be brought up. What are you hearing that we might see as far as efforts at reform?
Yeah, so as we've discussed on the podcast before, we've been publishing our ongoing Behind Bars, Beyond Care investigation, which has documented a lot of these alleged instances of denial of healthcare and kind of the structural issues at play that could be exacerbating the issue. So Representative Becky Curry, chairwoman of the House Corrections Committee and friend of the podcast, plans to try again this session to introduce a bill that would, or rather a series of bills that would tackle the healthcare issue in prison in all of the ways that it manifests. So last session, she introduced a really wide-ranging bill. She called it her Big, Beautiful Prison Healthcare Bill. It unfortunately met its demise at the end of session with negotiations with the state Senate, and it was whittled down significantly before it even reached those end of session negotiations. So she will attempt to reintroduce many of the same policies, but as standalone bills. So that includes ensuring inmates have access to 24/7 medical care, because as it presently stands, there are prisons where if an inmate gets injured overnight, they might have to wait until the next morning to receive treatment because there isn't.
Or in some cases, the next week or two.
In some cases, the next week or two. We had, of course, a story in our series about a gentleman who was denied really simple treatment for a broken arm for over a week, developed a sepsis infection. That arm was ultimately amputated. So yes, ensuring that there are kind of strong requirements in place that inmates receive timely care, dispensing medication in a way that ensures inmates who need medication don't face any roadblocks to receiving it, as has been the case with hepatitis C, according to some of our reporting, talking to Representative Curry, sources inside prisons, also requiring prisons to provide electronic kiosks that would allow inmates to request medical appointments, and also waiving fees for just some standard treatments that inmates receive, which they currently have to pay right now. And I spoke to Curry's Senate counterpart, Juan Barnett, a Democrat. He believes that the right approach, paraphrasing him, is to focus on reducing the prison population so as to not overburden the system, and kind of create instances where that the provision of healthcare in prisons might be overburdened. So we could expect some legislation from him attempting to adjust sentencing in Mississippi. That is likely a tall order, but that is where his frame of mind is. I wouldn't say offered a full-throated endorsement of the legislation or the various policies that Representative Curry plans to introduce. So we'll be paying really close attention to that ongoing negotiation between Representative Curry and Senator Barnett, because there does seem to be a little bit of a gap right now in what they would each like to focus on. So we'll be paying close attention to how that plays out.
Sure. And from your reporting, it sounds like the private company that handles prison healthcare and has a huge contract sounds like it's going to get perhaps a little more scrutiny.
Yeah. So Vital Core Health Services, a Kansas-based company. They are the private medical contractor in Mississippi, the recipient of hundreds of millions in taxpayer funds. As we've reported in various stories, there has been some dissatisfaction with the quality of care they have provided, particularly given the high price tag for providing said care. So we could see efforts again to rethink how monitoring is done with respect to this contract, because there is some ambiguity with respect to who is responsible for ensuring that Vital Core meets the terms of their contract with the state. So we'll have some reporting on this in the future, but I think we can also expect to see a renewed effort, both in the legislature perhaps, but also from the governor's office as well, to rethink how the state is monitoring Vital Core and ensuring that they are providing the care that they've been contracted to provide.
Sure. Well, Bobby, as we pointed out, this is not your first session. I guess we should mention, we go into these usually knowing, okay, here's going to be a couple of top issues, and then something comes out of left field typically. You got any predictions on what issue we don't see coming might pop up?
Well, I do think and I don't know if it's not an issue. I mean, there'd be some issue that no one's talking about whatsoever that will pop up and be a controversial issue. Right. And a lot of money will be spent on by lobbyists and a lot of finagling behind the scenes that'd be hard to report on, but I know your team would do a super job reporting on those. But another issue that I think deserves a lot of attention is healthcare. Jeff, Taylor, Michael, I mean, it was just a couple of years ago that, we were debating Medicaid expansion, and those who opposed Medicaid expansion were saying, one of the arguments they were making was, we don't need Medicaid expansion. We have these wonderful enhanced subsidies or tax credits to buy private insurance. Right. and that's better than Medicaid expansion. And there's thousands of people in Mississippi doing that. So let's not rock the boat. Now those subsidies appear, unless Congress does a turnaround in the next couple of weeks, are going to be gone. And I would venture to say there's going to be tens of thousands of Mississippians who don't sign up for those private health insurance on the Affordable Care Act changes in the coming year because they just can't afford it. And so that's going to just set Mississippi healthcare back. I mean, there's going to be more uninsured people who put more of a burden on hospitals and medical providers because they don't have the ability to pay. And so it seems like Mississippi takes a half a step forward on healthcare sometimes and 2 steps backwards. And it's going to be interesting to see if the legislature and the governor have any proposals to deal with that.
Yeah, we've seen Mississippi's going to receive some funding that I assume, I don't know how much will be controlled. Sounds like some of it controlled by the governor's office, but the rural healthcare funds. But I haven't seen anything with that's remotely going to be able to take the place of the ACA subsidies, like you mentioned.
No, they will help the hospital some, but the hospital will say that's definitely better than nothing, but that's not going to provide insurance for poor working Mississippians.
Yeah. And from what I've read and seen, it sounds like a lot of that initial money is going to be used to examine the problem, perhaps as much as addressing the problem. So,
seems like they would have that figured out by now.
And Bobby, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe, during the session where Medicaid expansion was being debated, the opponents of Medicaid expansion were essentially arguing, these enhanced ACA subsidies, they're going to be here forever. They're never going to go away. And lo and behold, here they are going away. Or it appears that they're going away. They're going away. Unless Congress acts, but time is quickly,
Yeah, and kind of switching the focus a little bit, it seems that the Mississippi congressional delegation, because healthcare is such a problematic in Mississippi, and these subsidies are something that helps. It seems like the Mississippi congressional delegation, especially Roger Wicker, who knows a lot about healthcare, he used to chair the state Senate healthcare committee, would be in the forefront to try to deal with these subsidies. But so far, it's kind of just crickets from our congressional delegation, other than Benny Thompson.
Yeah. Bobby, one last thing. From a actually recent podcast, you and I talked with some folks. Kind of a perennial issue is the public employee retirement system, and it's being underfunded by billions of dollars, and potentially a catastrophe down the road. The legislature made some changes last year that are proving to not be very popular. Changing up the system going forward to change it from a defined benefit plan to a defined contribution, more like a 401k.
That's sort of a hybrid plan, a little bit of contribution and some 401k elements to it also.
Yeah, and
for new hires, that we should stress that, Jeff.
Right. The public education folks and now the first responders are saying that moving forward, this is going to make it extremely difficult to attract and retain state employees. PERS is always, it's been called a third rail, or doing anything with it is very difficult. But do you foresee them being able to, first responders being able to get their own special program, or do you think anything will come this session out of PERS?
I don't know. I mean, Jeff, I think you and I both would agree. We understand the points the first responders are making, and how it's going to make it difficult to hire people down the road because their retirement benefits are not going to be as attractive as they once were. Right. But if you take the first responders out of the PERS system, that's going to make it harder to find the system. The existing system is kind of a, I don't know, is that a catch-22?
Something, yeah.
Yeah. The most obvious answer, and one that the legislature has not really been willing to bite the bullet on, is to put a lot of money. I mean, right now the state is an unprecedented situation in terms of revenue. They have coming in, and they could put some, over a 5-10 year period, put some real dollars in that system and kind of prop it up a little bit and improve it for down the road. But they've been refusing to do that. Instead, they kind of tinker around the edges, and then this major bill, which you referred to, which I passed, what was that, last year, to for new hires. That there's always been the argument that the public employees in Mississippi don't make a lot of money, but they have good benefits when they retire. Now you can't make that argument for new hires, and even though one reason they did this the way they did it is the current employees are not going to be hurt, so they're not going to be campaigning theoretically on the legislators who pass this, but so the people who's going to be harmed are not there yet. So it's kind of a safe way for the legislature to do it in terms of keeping from being politically attacked for changing PERS.
Jeff, just really quickly, when you talk about PERS, usually you don't then think about online sports betting. But in Mississippi's case, online sports betting has been floated by the speaker, for instance, as a potential source of revenue for PERS to try to redirect, some of the revenue that the state might obtain if they do go ahead and legalize online sports betting to PERS, the public retirement system. And on that note, I think we will definitely be paying close attention to what will likely be another effort on the House side to legalize sports betting. The House has passed a bill to do so for several sessions running at this point, and House lawmakers have attempted to win over their Senate colleagues by, introducing or including a pot of money that brick and mortar casinos could, draw from to assuage their concerns about the impact that online betting would have on their bottom lines. There have been efforts to introduce provisions that would ban individuals from placing bets with credit cards. So we will see if the House will indeed make any progress in winning over their skeptical Senate colleagues on the issue of sports betting. There's been a lobbying blitz in Mississippi for several years running, which we'll cover. So I think it's an issue that matters to a lot of Mississippians, both those for it and those against it. And it could be used as, it could emerge as a negotiating an issue that the chambers fight over, and it could, as we saw with the tax cut bill last session, it could be used as kind of a wedge issue. So we'll definitely be paying close attention to that effort this session.
Yeah. The online sports gambling, to me, I don't know. It looks like one of those inevitable issues. It's a matter of when, not if. I know, as you said, the casinos have been reluctant, but I think it's to the point that so much is going on in the black market or gray areas that going to have to come up with something. But we shall see. Look, there's probably
another. Jeff, let me add one thing on the online betting. Along those lines, I ate Billy's Burgers recently in Puckett, Mississippi. And across 3 tables there at lunch, there were people talking about fantasy football, which is could be a component of online betting. So it's definitely a popular issue.
Yeah, like I said, I think we're looking at the inevitable there. But look, folks, there's another probably dozen or so issues we could tackle and probably will be dealing with in the coming months. But anyway, again, just wish everyone a happy New Year, and stay tuned to Mississippi Today and the Other Side podcast. And I'm sure we will be tackling all sorts of issues, including the ones we don't foresee yet, as we mentioned. But guys, I hope you all have a happy New Year, and we're about to hit the ground running.
January 6th at noon.
Yep.
First Tuesday after the first Monday.
Yep.
All right.
All right. See ya.